time. Showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also a co-host of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how are you doing this post-Thanksgiving week?
Recovering, Rich, recovering from taking extra days off, eating a lot, and just generally laying about. How are you?
Pretty much the same, working the tryptophan out of my system. Yeah, it was a great holiday break on my end.
Yeah, now we're both paying for it as we were chatting before we went live.
I'll bet there are a lot of other people who can identify with that. Yeah, with time off comes the what I sometimes refer to as the vacation penalty, and yeah, we're all paying that now.
I like that.
So let us dive into our top story of the week here. Comes to us via Auvik. For the third year running now, they recently published their network diversity report. And chiefly what they are trying to do is get a sense for how many different vendors, network vendors are in use out there, how many vendors the average MSP is supporting, because supporting more vendors is generally going to be less efficient and eat into your profitability. But there's an interesting and bigger trend revealed by this year's report that I wanted to talk about. So who is Auvik? Auvik is a network management company. A lot of folks are familiar with them and their software. They support through their partners, through their MSP partners, they're supporting 520,000 managed devices on 40,000 networks. So they have a pretty good view into what's happening in networks, and especially SMB networks right now. And one of the things they do is look within that 520,000 devices at the share accounted for by different kinds of network devices, access points, switches, firewalls, and routers. And there was a trend that they noticed this year. It wasn't a huge, dramatic, pronounced trend, but definitely a trend in this year's results that they believe is really indicative of a larger, longer-term trend that will be relevant to anyone enjoying this program right now. So if you look at the share of network devices in those networks accounted for by access points, Wi-Fi access points, that share has grown in the last year. Share accounted for by switches and firewalls, that share has dropped in the last year. And what this points to, Auvik says, basically, is how the SMB network of today and especially tomorrow is beginning to adapt to these new work conditions that we've become so familiar with. So we're seeing SMBs shift more and more of what they do into the cloud. People are doing more video conferencing. All of this requires, plus you've got people splitting time between home and the office. So they're maybe spending less time at assigned desks with wired internet connections. They're more interested in Wi-Fi. All of this is making it more and more logical for an SMB to build a network that doesn't really focus all that much on east-west traffic behind the firewall, within the perimeter, if you will, and create a simpler, secure, faster network that's really optimized for north-south traffic from the worker, wherever that person is, home or in the office, to the cloud. And so that's the kind of picture of the SMB network of the future that's coming into focus. We're not there yet, but just based on these results and the trends Auvik highlighted this year, that's clearly where we're headed. And that's the kind of network our audience, Eric, is going to be building and supporting and maintaining in the future.
Less cabling, Rich, less troubleshooting switch ports and that kind of stuff. Say it ain't so. You know, it's funny. I was watching some YouTube videos the other day and talking about how to get faster network speeds out of your flat panel TV. And I thought, okay, what's this gimmick? Let me tune in and see what they're saying. And you know what surprised me was the fix was actually true. Like the hack, the TV hack was true. They said, if you're cabling your flat panel TV to your network, like some of us do, those LAN ports on the back of the TV don't handle faster traffic than 100 megabits per second. So the solution was to buy this device that you plug into the USB port of the TV that allows you to connect to your Wi-Fi connection, and the results were dramatic. 500 meg down, up, whatever, how fast your network, your Wi-Fi actually is, rather than the cable connection. Now, I don't suspect, Rich, that we have a lot of devices anymore, at least I hope not, that are using older LAN network cards and things like that that are 100 megabits per second, but maybe they're slower than the true potential of today's Wi-Fi wireless network. So that's also a benefit. Hey, instead of pulling new Cat 6 cable and all this other stuff to rewire, maybe what we're doing now is simply putting these super secure, faster Wi-Fi devices in that do multiple duties, both switch, firewall, and things like that, and spend that money on upgrading the desktops or the laptops. And we're going more toward laptops, spend money on that and monitors, so that we can really fuel this work from anywhere opportunity that we seem to continue to be moving towards.
And to the extent that people take advantage of devices, of the kind that you're talking about there, Eric, that just further goes to this key sort of benefit that this new SMB network architecture offers to channel pros, which, as you kind of got to early on there, is the simplicity of it. Less wiring, fewer connections. You're really just trying to do what Auvik itself, by the way, is a perfect example of this. At their office, apparently, all they have is Wi-Fi, and all they really do is use it to connect to the cloud, and all that makes the network simpler. And as long as you are, paying attention to security issues and so on, it's an easier and maybe even more profitable architecture to support.
I'd agree. I'd agree.
So let's move on to your tip of the week, Eric. And when people hear the word taxes, aside from cringing a little bit, they tend to think about the date April 15th, but there's another date you want them to focus on a little bit.
Yeah, I want the tip of the week really is to work with your tax advisor to maximize ways to minimize your tax liability before the end of the year. And, I was reviewing a blog post by, a tax planning firm, and they had some really specific things to think about, notwithstanding the fact that, some of the tax advantages that were uh, introduced by the prior administration are going to change with the new administration next year. So it's good to know what we are still able to take advantage of, and planning ahead in case things, make it a little bit more difficult to benefit from some of these things as they change moving into 2022. So I'm not, just a couple of bullet points here. And please, everyone, this is not tax advice. Okay, I am not a tax professional. I'm just saying, hey, work with your tax professional and explore ways that you might be able to take advantage of tax savings this year that you may not be able to take advantage of next year. So just a couple of bullet points. Changing from recognizing certain advance payments in the year of receipt to recognizing a portion in the following taxable year. So can you get clients to pay you in advance for next year's services and recognize those payments in a different way to provide some tax advantages? Again, check with your tax professional. Changing from maybe an accrual method of accounting to a cash method of accounting may provide you some tax advantages, according to these tax advisors. Changing from capitalizing certain prepaid expenses like insurance premiums, warranty service contracts, licenses and things like that, to deducting when paid using the 12-month rule, whatever that is. Deducting eligible accrued compensation liabilities such as bonuses and severance payments that are paid within 2.5 months of year end. So can you pay those after year end and still receive benefits? So things like that got me really thinking, Rich, boy, I'm certainly having those conversations with my tax advisors to see what I can do to minimize my tax exposure, and even, investing in 401k or, Roth IRA on a personal basis and things like that. What can we do to minimize our tax exposure moving forward?
And it's it's all about being proactive and all about thinking about these things. I mean, again, really, I think a lot of folks don't think all that much about certainly federal income taxes until you start approaching April 15th, but you really do need to be looking out. Now is when you have that opportunity to maybe do some things that are going to help you reduce that tax liability. And as we record this, you've got a month still to book some time with your tax advisor and take some steps that could save you some money. So good advice. Consider it a little holiday gift to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, even maybe make some capital expenditures this year. I know that a lot of channel pros have those conversations with their clients. Hey, take advantage of spending some of that today. When you rather invest in your infrastructure rather than giving some of it away to Uncle Sam? Those types of things.
All right, so excellent advice there. It leaves us with time for just one more story here, and I'll say up front, Eric, we are not condoning, promoting sports wagering in any fashion, and yet there are probably some people in the audience who now and again enjoy placing a bet on a game, and they may particularly enjoy this story. So it seems that an offshore online gambling platform offered a prop bet on a soccer match between Manchester United and Liverpool. And the bet basically was whether or not a player named Marcus Rashford would score a goal in the game played on May 13th this year. And it turns out he did. Due to a sort of fat finger data entry error, I suppose, though, this prop bet that was supposed to go out to gamblers on May 13th before the game actually went out to them on May 14th after the game. Now, I'm not much of an odds maker, Eric, but if you're allowing me to bet on a game that took place yesterday, I'm probably going to get that bet right. And sure enough, in the state of New Jersey, there were 86 people who did place a bet on the system. By golly, every last one of them won the bet, and they took home collectively something like $15,000. Now, I call out the fact that this was 86 people in New Jersey because we only know about this due to something that came out of a filing from the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement recently. So 86 people in New Jersey, you can only imagine how many people worldwide actually took advantage of this surefire lock on a soccer game played yesterday.
Yeah. Wish we all had that opportunity, right, Rich? Remember
Every
Back
one
to
of
the
the
Future, having the sports scorebook for the future. That would be handy in many instances.
can only imagine people kind of rubbing their eyes a little bit. Am I reading that right? Am I actually betting on yesterday's game? Yeah. Well. And by the way, all of those winnings were revoked once the platform realized what it had gotten wrong. It took the money back, and this is part of why they got in trouble with New Jersey. But for a little while there, this was a pretty fun bet for these people to have placed and won. Well, folks, that is all the time we've got here this week for you on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. We are both a video and a podcast. So if you're watching the video right now, but you're into podcasts, you can find us on Stitcher and Google and Apple and Spotify, all the places you go to get podcasts. Please subscribe to us there, rate and review the show. It will help people like yourself find the show and enjoy it too. If you're listening to the podcast, come join us on video. You'll find us most easily by going to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube. All the videos are there for you. You want to read more, dive in a little bit more to this interesting network data from Auvik, and get all sorts of other great information about what's happening in the industry and growing your business. Please visit channelpronetwork.com every day. We've got great new content for you there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, please visit ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, we thank you for joining us, folks. We're going to see you again next week for another episode of the show. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.